Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Final Fantasy discussion. I am here, joined by, we'll go down the list, Bearded Man Thing. How you doing?
How's it going? Glad to be here.
And down at the bottom there, Mage O Rage.
Salutations. How's everyone tonight?
Hanging in there.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're gonna try something a little new
Coffee.
here on the channel, and and a little. I don't want to say unprecedented, but we're going to be looking at a article that came out probably a long time ago, January 2016. But it caught my ire, and I figured I would love to discuss this with my buddies here about Final Fantasy. It says 5 reasons Final Fantasy failed worse than any franchise ever. So anyway, so now the internet cracked.com is going to tell us why the Final Fantasy franchise is worse.
That's where you got this article from?
Look,
This is, it's probably parody,
Yeah, I hope.
but still, we can
Yeah.
lampoon their parody.
I mean, I feel like Cracked is almost like half the time it's just trying to force.
point.
Oh my god,
I
this
was
is what I
right.
have complained about.
It's right.
Oh.
it's drowning in pointless spin-offs. So you guys agree?
Not drowning in it, but the one picture it has here, the Final Fantasy Record Keeper, is one of the ones that I hate the most. It's one of those gacha versions where you get a bunch of characters and you have to pay to get. Really, you have to drop money to get these extra characters, the ones you really want, because you have to like pull and pull and pull and pull to get like the best of the characters. And
So you're talking
it's
about right
not-
here where it says summon legendary characters from Final Fantasy series 99 cents.
Yep,
Mhm.
there it is.
But the
There
sad
it
thing
is.
is there are multiple Final Fantasy gacha games, and
There are.
and the sad thing is Record Keeper's probably the best of them, but they're all still awful gacha games.
So I've
See,
heard.
I would argue, do you consider Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, the mobile version? Would you consider that a gacha game?
Isn't that mostly just skins though that you get through gacha?
Yeah.
Like, or actual full-on characters that you can't get any other way.
Oh no, you can get all the characters. I have all the characters. I've never paid for a single one.
So
You can pay to
is
get
a
more
gacha
resources.
game, but I like that better because you don't have to get the characters that way. This one's different because literally the baddest of the baddest characters you're not going to get without dropping money on them.
See, that's the only one. That's the only mobile game I've ever played is the Opera Omnia one.
The Record Keeper was more like a Final Fantasy game where you go in and you have 4 people that battle against the enemies.
Well, Opera Omnia is Final Fantasy. You only get 3 characters.
No. I meant like more like a turn-based Final Fantasy game.
Also, Opera Omnia is turn-based. And have you ever
I thought
played
it? Was a fighting game. I thought Dissidia was all a fighting game.
No. Okay, that's Dissidia. Whatever. I'm talking about Opera Omnia, the mobile game.
See, I thought all of the Dissidia was the whole series was a fighting game.
No, it is a turn-based RPG with a story, and I consider it very well done, and it's still running almost 5 years later because of that, in my opinion. And no, you don't have to pay a single dime for any character. You can pay for more resources. You can pay, but you don't have to pay to play. Like I put money into the game, but I've never put money into the game to get like a character or anything that is necessary.
We might be kind of proving this point though, because we're talking about so many of the spinoffs.
You said it, Bearded. You took the words out of my mouth. But I mean, the fact is, we've lost track of maybe a quality one that Cheeto's recommending to us.
Sure,
because there are so many. I mean, that kind of because that kind of proves drowning.
Yeah, because there are a lot, and there's ones that I took one look at, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to play that one. It looks like this one that I didn't like.
It's just, I was like, yet another Final Fantasy mobile game. Why?
It's really good. But anyways, then let's talk about like Dirge of Cerberus, which actually added to Final Fantasy VII. And since it takes place after, for the most part, I mean, I guess it's kind of like Vincent's story that should have been in the game.
Yeah, I
But
feel like it really only expanded upon. Yes, the other characters are in the game. Some, I mean, you got Kate Sith, Yuffie. There's, I think, a lot of them show up for the last round. I can't remember if all of them show up for the last.
a lot of them do. A lot of
but
them
a lot
do.
of them are in the last final cutscenes of that game. But like you said, I feel like that's mostly just expanding on Vincent.
Yeah.
Not Seven as a whole, but just his personal character and where he came from and where he's going.
But that goes back to my question: do you consider Dirge of Cerberus a spin-off game that we're drowning in, or do you feel like that is a good example of a spin-off game?
I think it's not a sequel; it's more of a spin-off, but it is. I don't know if I can say it's good. I enjoyed it. I like it, but as far as a good game, I don't feel like it meets the metrics that I would uphold to labeling it a good game.
I'm right there with you. I would label that game
Right.
as I enjoyed going back into that world. And actually, back when Dirge first came out, you got to see like a lot of the Final Fantasy VII world through different eyes because of the graphics were so much different. And so, I mean, like when you go to Shinra Mansion, like that's the first time you get to see Shinra Mansion in that way, not just like a paste in the background. It is a live environment that you're running around in. So that's that's why I agree with
playing
you.
it. I did have fun playing it.
As I said,
I don't see it as, I feel like the mechanics are not very good for a shooter or a turn-based game or an RPG. A shooter RPG.
I would consider it honestly
a shooter
any of
RPG.
those.
It was Parasite Eve Light as far as gameplay goes.
Oh, Parasite Eve was so good, though. Let's not.
It was good. Sorry.
Let's not. Yes, that's me. No, I was about to.
All right. So do we agree with this or no? Yes.
I agree. Dirge of Cerberus and other spin-offs that like add to the lore and are unique are one thing, but piling on the mobile games and sequels and stuff like that, I think are drowning.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Next point. They forgot how to write a coherent story. So
this all this stings so far. Like like I felt like we were gonna go into this and just be able to like completely rebuttal every single thing they say, but God, some of this hits a little too close to home.
So okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of here. Okay, so Final Fantasy IV is about a knight who saves the world and atones for his sins. 5 is about stopping an evil sorcerer. 6 is about overthrowing an evil government. 7 is about overthrowing an evil corporation. 8 is a gay romance gone wrong. What? I don't even understand that. 9 is about a war with a sinister plot behind it. Tactics is about a war with a sinister plot behind it, but on a grid. Okay. There's far more to all of these, of course. 6 ends up being about an evil clown. 7 ends up being about a misguided male hair model. But the basics can be summed up with ease, and then intriguing details slowly unfold. Even 10 there is a big twist, and is that fantasy Peyton Manning is the collective dream of the dead civilization start with a lost dude fleeing a giant monster. Okay, so I'm going to stop reading because okay.
Bad. Their writing's bad.
Yeah, their points are both valid and invalid at certain points. I feel like a lot of the ones they've listed are some of the ones with some of the best writing in Final Fantasy, like 9, Tactics, 7, 6. You know, a lot of these that they're listing are some of the best writing that Final Fantasy has to offer, and it's really good writing. A lot of these characters have a lot of character development, even though some of the stories are a little similar. But once we get past 10, that's where it really does start to get bad and start to prove. I think he used the wrong examples to prove his point.
Yeah, I
His
agree
or
because,
her.
huh?
His or her. I don't know who wrote this.
I don't remember either.
There.
There. I'm curious about what was this comment about the gay romance gone wrong? Is that a thing? Like, is eight? What is that? Like, are you talking about Squall and Cipher?
I it's
Renoa and Eden? Like, I don't know what
It-
the.
it's
I
a
don't know.
failed joke, and obvious if
It falls a
three
little
hard if
flat.
3 hardcore Final Fantasy fans can't get the joke, then it's a bad joke and it's
Right. Like, I'm like,
problematic.
I don't. Is it
It's
Squall and Zell? Like, what's going on?
So
is it
it could
Zell and
be-
hot dogs?
It's Zell and
It could be Zell and Squall. It could be Squall and Cipher. It could be Renoa and Eden. It could be Eden and Ultimecia. It could be so much. Like, it's hard to say where the joke came from, who it was directed at, and why they felt that it was okay to make a gay joke.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I'm like, I don't. I want to be offended, but like, for the gay community, but I don't even understand where the joke.
Yeah, like, I don't know who the joke is directed at.
I think the joke's on the author.
Yeah,
Maybe.
right. Yeah.
But to the author's credit, I will say that I do kind of agree that Square Enix lost some of its magic, but I think it lost the magic after 10. When they lost, and I'm going to butcher his name. I want to look it up so I say it correctly.
I'm trying to figure out if he's like, I couldn't tell if he was defending four through tactics or not.
He is.
Sakaguchi. Sakaguchi is the one they lost.
Mhm.
Yes. They lost him. They didn't really lose him. What they did was they used the Spirit Within as an excuse to dethrone him. They made him a figurehead. They were like, this did terribly, even though everything else you've ever touched has been golden. This one thing did terribly, so we're not really going to give you any more creative control. And then 11 happened, which both good and bad. 12, 13, the first rendition of 14, which was horrible.
Yeah.
It's I feel like they lost a lot of their magic when they turned him into more of a figurehead, which he stepped down and walked away from it and made his own company.
Which put out quality titles. I mean,
with really good writing.
I mean, he worked with. Well, I'm going to stop before we hit Tangent Station.
Oh, sorry. I mean, we could.
No, it's fine. I mean, so I agree.
Blue Dragon.
So are we agreeing or disagreeing?
Great.
I mean, I would disagree with the fact that what he's sourcing. Definitely.
Agreed. I agree with Cheeto. I disagree with the sources, but I feel like his initial statement started me thinking about what really is happening. As I hope it doesn't happen to 16.
Oh, hold on a second.
There's
Okay.
some good and a lot of bad.
So, doomed the franchise.
I want to read this here really quick. So
Sure.
That's why 7 doomed the franchise even as it launched sales into the stratosphere. 7 was the first to use CGI cutscenes, but instead of realizing that a restrained 47 minutes of CGI could complement competent game making, the lesson Square took away from it was beautiful cinematics. It produced sales. Then they crammed more and more cinematics into their games until 13 collapsed under the weight of 8.5 hours of them.
Fair point.
No, see, I do argue because I would go to bat and say that 9 cinematics, they add so, like, I get what they're saying about 7.
9 has the best balance of cinematics, though.
I agree.
That's why it got like 3rd spot on my list.
I think 10 also does a really good balancing job, but the writing wasn't as good.
The voice acting kills 10 cinematics.
True. Yes. I think the Japanese voice acting is better.
It is. It's leaps
a lot.
It's leaps and bounds better.
But I feel like the
I've
writing
never played
in 10
Japanese. I probably should. That would be a fun
with subtitles.
playthrough.
Just play with subtitles. It's awesome. But no, what I was saying is, I feel like 10 gameplay versus cinematics, there's a good balance between gameplay and cinematics. It's not like there's too much cinematics or too much gameplay in 10. Is all I meant. At least I don't feel like there is. There's a lot of there is a lot of cinematics, but I don't feel like there's like with 13 that there's just so many cutscenes that I'm not getting to play at all.
Yeah. Xenosaga, if you guys ever played those games, those
Love them.
I do love them too, but that would be the argument here is there's way too many cinematics. So, all right, number 3 on their list is they forgot how to tell a story in a single game. I mean, I don't know who said that in the past, but I feel like he's a pretty smart guy, at least regarding 7.
Does he have the initials of CC? Maybe.
Maybe.
What is happening?
Cheeto's hurting his shoulder, patting himself on the back.
Yeah.
I'm the one who always says Final Fantasy 7 just could never tell a concrete story like that. That was their problem with the original one. So anyway, so Final Fantasy storytelling problem is compounded by what I call the Fabula Nova Crystallis Excelsior Flapjack Boogaloo Conundrum. That's a mouthful. They become incapable of telling a story in just one game, and the more games they expand the story to, the dumber it gets. Square first dabbed in this with X2, where the player who enjoyed Yuna's world-saving journey of self-discovery in 10 could now follow her pop music and fashion career. It's so true. All right, so I'm not gonna. I mean, they talk about 13.2 and Lightning Returns. I don't know. Type 0 was its own game, I thought.
It was. It was a spinoff.
It was?
Yeah, well, not a spinoff. I'm sorry. I don't know what to call like a tactics.
Yeah,
it's not a numbered. It's an offshoot. Yeah, it's not like a numbered sequel, but it's its own game and its own realm and its own. It's weird. I don't know what else to call it because they didn't give it a number.
Did they add to the plot of the original with that? I'm not familiar with that entry.
I have it. I played about 5 hours of it.
Yes, Type 0. Does it engage?
They released it on PSP, and then they re-released it on PS4 and that generation.
Okay.
I do not believe they added much content, but I feel like they do it when they do a different kind of Final Fantasy game, like Tactics. It's not a numbered sequel because it's more grid-based. It's a tactics game, for lack of a better way of describing it, because Tactics kind of created a tactics genre.
Right, which is why I was asking, does this one interact with the story of a previously established game?
No.
Okay, so then that kind of invalidates the point they're trying to make about it if it's not even one that ties in with the plot of a existing title.
I agree. What was the thing they said? That I feel like it's a different problem that Square Enix has rather than what he's saying the problem is. He said what was it? How did he put it? Unable to tell a coherent story in one game, but realistically they're telling a story in one game and then trying to tell another story in the same realm a lot of times with these sequels and expansions, even though they could have just not. I guess it's, what is it, chasing the money? There's a term
beating
for
a dead horse.
Beating a dead horse is a good way of putting it.
What is it? Milking
it. Yeah, they're milking it. They're trying to milk each installment for all it's worth. So, I mean, I don't agree with what he's saying, but it also made me realize there's a different problem.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to re-experiencing 7's nicely self-encapsulated story? Well, too goddamn bad, because now you need to play Before Crisis, Crisis Core, and Dirge of Cerberus for the full experience. Oh, and watch Advent Children and Last Order.
What's Last Order?
I have no idea.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm a kindred spirit with this person. So, at least in this regard. All right.
We should reach out to them, have them come defend their old article.
Yeah, right. From 2016.
How old is this article? Is it?
2016.
Oh, what the hell is that thumbnail?
Number 2, gaming has matured, but Final Fantasy has regressed. Before the release of Lightning Returns, the developers revealed a huge innovation that promised to revolutionize the series. They made Lightning's breasts bigger and perfected her jiggle physics. Jesus, no wonder she's so mopey. Here's Lightning in 13. Okay. Kind of underdressed for combat, but otherwise nothing unusual. 13 may have been a dumb game, but tremendously boring heroine, or with a tremendously boring heroine. But at least the tedious self-righteous kept Lightning from being a sex object. Here are some of the costumes she wears in Lightning Returns. Okay, so yeah, so
I mean, they basically gave it the X2 treatment.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of. I mean, I love how he's focusing on 13 when they really did this in 10.2 first. And let's not forget DOA. I mean, for reals, like, are we just gonna act like that this is something new?
I was about to say when Bearded said X2, I was thinking maybe Extreme Beach Volleyball 2.
But also, I mean, like, just look on the internet for like Resident Evil mods and Final Fantasy VII remake mods.
Oh
Like,
my god, there's so many Tifa mods. I
yeah,
follow
like,
this other Final Fantasy group, and it's literally like every other post is a different Tifa mod for Integrad.
And I mean, I understand. Like, I understand where they're, because this kind of stuff just annoys me. Like, I don't need the slutty costumes and shit like that. Like, I understand, but at the same time, I'm like, you can't say that a franchise has, and here they go into 10.2, that a franchise has regressed when obviously it's
kind of how they have done it for years.
Yeah, like, this is nothing new. So hold on. I guess maybe this is a different point. Gaming's always pointlessly sexualized heroines, but Final Fantasy used to be an exception. Let's look at Terra in 6.
Wait, what?
Oh right. She's a bunch of pixels. They didn't make her hot because they couldn't, right? I think there's a group out there that might that might have sexualized her a little bit. But here's how she and the other heroines were portrayed in the manual, which you actually had to read then. Okay. You're
right.
clearly getting a mysterious fantasy adventure, not bouncy anime boobs. And when the series progressed to 3D, they kept it classy while the others worked at perfecting their low-res strippers. Here's Ares in 7, Renoa, Dagger. Let's just be clear. Probably the most conservative out of all of them is Dagger. Let's be real. Tifa.
Absolutely. Another thing I would honestly like to point out is the artwork for 6 was done by an
Yoshitaka Amano.
Right, but the way he drew them, this is what was considered beautiful and sexy for women at the time for him. Right? Like, his goal was to draw these drawings in a beautiful and sexy way, but at the time of the drawing, those concepts are different than what the concepts were when 13 the Lightning Returns came out.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean, they make the point here about Lara Croft. I mean, yeah, like, they've always over-sexualized Lara Croft. So
I'm not saying that it's right that they over-sexualize them. I guess, in my opinion, is that they've not really changed.
Yeah.
They've kind of always done it. They're not changed for the good or for the better.
And it's not just Final Fantasy. It's across the board.
It's across the board.
Absolutely.
But the outfits weren't super conservative down the years. I mean, adult Rydia in 4 comes to mind. Terra and Celeste's outfits are revealing in areas, even in the original Amano art.
Esper Terra is... I'm pretty sure Esper Terra is basically naked.
Cyrene from 8. Remember her?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Teenage Bearded remembers her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I called her Cyrene Bush, is what I called her.
I mean, they censored it a bit for American audiences. Censorship is
Not
weird
really.
too. In Japan, censorship is different than it is here in America. Like,
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is nothing new. None of this
no,
is
it's
new.
not. Absolutely not. So like here in America, we can have like the blood and the gore and everything. A lot of releases in Japan, like me and my buddy Tick, were talking about Metal Gear Rising Revengeance back when we first started playing it.
Oh, is this
And
a
there's
plug
like
for
this.
your channel?
No, it's
For your
not. It's
show on the
not.
Bearded
Like
Man thing that is available on Twitch. Link is in the description.
that is not what I was trying to do, but
No, I'm plugging it for you.
that's fine. You can plug me. Plug me on. No, wait. Anyway, there's this part. This dude gets cut up real bad, and there's blood splurting everywhere. And for me, it's blood, but on his original Japanese copy for like his Xbox 360 or whatever, it's white like cyborg plasma. It's not blood because they have some weird censorship around showing blood over showing, you know, Siren with her coochie hanging out.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like as I said, I really don't agree. I think it's across the board in every genre of video games. You can't say that Final Fantasy is failing, or failed because of that. You know, like that. And if that's your number 2 point.
To Square Enix, though, they did a really good job with the new Tomb Raider games of making Lara Croft a more realistic person.
My girlfriend's playing those, man. She loves them.
So it's not like Square Enix couldn't do better.
Yeah.
Because they can do better.
True that. All right. Number 1. Creators and fans have all stopped caring. Because obviously we're making this video because we just don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. I think this is proof in the positive. Is that proof in the pudding? Proof in the pudding.
Proof is in the pudding, yeah.
Yeah.
The collective shrug and that greeted Lightning Returns. And keep in mind, this is 2016, so this is before 15, I think. When did 15 come out?
Late 16, I want to say.
So
maybe early 17, but I want to say late 16.
Next time I'll pick a more recent article, so we don't have to try to figure out dates.
It was
of when
November 2016.
Okay, so the shrug that greeted Lightning Returns was the latest sign that Square now views its Final Fantasy fans the way a pickup artist views most women. Mysterious others that can never be understood, only tricked and manipulated. Oh God, this guy's hurting my soul reading this shit. The new 7 is far from the first Final Fantasy remake. Has there been another remake?
At this time, the remake hadn't happened.
Yeah. But it says the new 7 is far from the first Final Fantasy remake. The first 6 have been ported, updated, remade. I guess the Final Fantasy Origins, would that be considered I guess it would be considered a remake, wouldn't it, technically?
Hold on.
It's all semantics. I see what they're trying to say, but
the new 7 was the HD release is what he's talking about here. Because this is way before the Final Fantasy remake.
Oh, yeah, that one came out in 2020.
Happened. Right, and I think this may have been before it was announced, too. I think he's talking about the Final Fantasy 7 HD.
But it wasn't before we all started hoping.
No, they had us teased about that thing for 7 or 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess it was in 2015. It was the year before this article came out that they announced it.
The remake?
Yeah.
So it took them 5 years for it to come out. So that tracks, yeah. So, okay, so
they did do a good job with it.
Yeah, oh yeah, they absolutely did. I just hope it doesn't take another 5 years for the next part 2 to come out.
It's already getting closer. We're 2 years out.
Yeah. Here's hoping 2023 part 2. Okay, anyway. So, all right. So, I mean, there's just more talks about the remakes and stuff like that, and you know, all of us have stopped caring. I can't say that we've stopped caring. I mean, especially, and as I said, this is a dated article, so I acknowledge that. But at the same time, we're still talking about the fans not caring. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake was a huge success for the company. People are clamoring for Final Fantasy 16. That was a big, huge trailer that came out last year.
I think at the time of writing, some of his assertions may have been a little more accurate because we were probably coming off of Lightning Returns. 14 had failed at this point. I don't know when 14. I guess around
14
the time
14 re-released in 2013, so it was running pretty strong at this point.
Sure, but the original 14 had failed.
Correct, but
I
was playing 14 at this point, and it was very highly regarded when I started playing it.
I feel like there's some credibility to his arguments back in 2016.
Okay.
I think we've come a long way since then. Square Enix is coming back from some of the stupid decisions that they made. I don't think 13 Lightning Returns should have ever been a game. I did like 13-2, but I feel like they could have told a better story and ended it instead of trying to do more and more and more and trying to push that envelope to milk the cow. I don't know.
What about the I guess the Final Fantasy 3 and 4 for the DS? I mean, those were remakes technically. So I don't know. I mean, I played 3 on the DS, and
the 3D remakes I think are a horse of a different color. I think they did a pretty decent job with the 3D remake, but I haven't actually played it yet either, so it's hard for me to say. It looks good for a remake that was released on the DS.
Okay. Mage, anything to add or?
I feel like they were off the mark on a lot of things. Some points were halfway valid, but I think a lot of it was splitting hairs and jokes that didn't land.
Oh, definitely.
Would expect better from Cracked.
Really? I don't. I mean, I expected a lot worse. I think that some of their points landed, albeit like 3 or 4 inches off the mark, because their reasoning was faulty.
There wasn't enough absurdity to be proper parody. There was too much logic that was almost there.
Right.
It seems like a poorly written article, not
absolutely
well executed parody.
So let me ask this question. Do we think that this is somebody who doesn't know much about Final Fantasy who wrote this article? Or do you think this person is pretty well knowledgeable in Final Fantasy, was just a product of the time in 2016?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's an article that someone was told to write, and they were given, this is what we want you to write about. The topic, the actual topic, they had to come up with the 5 reasons, and instead of actually being a Final Fantasy player, they just had somebody go on a wiki and read as much as they could on the wikis or comments of things that they on other Final Fantasy articles by fans, and they didn't. I don't feel like the person who's writing this has played all these games that they mentioned.
I definitely agree with you on that. I don't think this person has played all the games, or at least is knowledgeable in most of the games. I don't expect everyone to play everything of Final Fantasy just because that's a lot. But like, you at least need to be knowledgeable in. Like, I feel like all of us could do a.
If you're going to use a specific game as a reason why something
you should have played it
bad, you should have played that game.
Yeah.
I don't feel like this person has played 8.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, they haven't.
Not 8.
I mean, I don't like 8, and I mean, I've at least played it.
I don't think they played 9 either. I think they may have played 6 and 7. I think they played those 2.
At least.
At a guess.
All right. Well, with that all being said, guys, thank you very much for joining me with this trying something new. So I hope to do more of these in the future. Maybe next time I'll find a more recent article that we can maybe dig a little bit deeper into, or Maybe we'll find like an old article, basic, and then we can like go back in time and talk about then versus now. Ooh. I don't know.
That could be fun.
I like it.
All right, guys. Well, everybody, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you maybe kind of sort of heard of. Bearded Mage, thank you very much for joining me again for this
Always a pleasure.
Always.
try. We tried this out, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.